everyone, it's Viv and I am talking about increases. I totally play favorites when it comes to the make one in knitting, so adding a stitch to be able to shape your fabric. Now depending on the pattern that you're using, some of these make ones are decorative and some of these make ones are for function and they become invisible in your fabric. Let's compare 4 of the more common make one increases in knitting, and these are invisible increases because we strategically twist the stitch while we knit into it to prevent creating a hole while we're making a new stitch in the fabric. Let's start with the make one right, make one left. This is a sturdy increase and I like it especially for creating thumbs on mittens, but it's also a common increase for sleeves on raglan sweaters and heels on socks. It involves picking up the bar in between the stitches on the right and left needle. I use the right needle to help get the bar onto the left needle, which goes through either the front or the back of the bar. When the left needle goes through the back of the bar, we need to knit into the front to prevent making this hole, creating the right leaning stitch. I remember this one because right is tight. Usually I have to tug on the stitch, I have to loosen it, and then I have to hold it to knit into it. There we go, right leaning stitch. The make one left feels a lot easier to knit and it's actually my favorite make one stitch. The bar is picked up by the left needle going through the front and we knit into the back. So this stitch is tight just like in the make one right, but I just cheat and needle my way from the front to knit into the back. This definitely gets easier with practice. Knit front and back. This is another sturdy increase, but instead of knitting into the bar between stitches, we knit into one stitch twice. Once into the front and once into the back before we take it off the left-hand needle. Looking at the anatomy of a stitch, we see every stitch has a right leg and a left leg. If the right leg is in the back, when we knit in front and back, we get a right leaning stitch. So an easy way to remember this is whichever leg is in the back is the direction the new stitch is going to lean in. So let's take a look at the left leaning counterpart. When we approach a stitch with the left leg in the back and the right leg in the front, knitting front and back will get you that left leaning stitch. This increase is a really nice one for beginners and advanced beginners because you're not fussing around trying to knit into really tight stitches. Yarn over increases, a supposedly easy increase. It does create a smooth fabric with a nice even separation from the leaning stitches. So to create a right leaning stitch, we yarn over back over to front and then we carry on knitting. To create the left leaning stitch, we yarn over back under to the front and then we keep on knitting as if that were the easiest thing in the world to do. But there's a catch. On the wrong side, you have to purl into the tighter leg to create a twisted stitch in order to prevent making that hole. This can be somewhat tedious and it does kind of remind me of the make one right and make one left. Only with those increases, I wasn't purling. So either way, I struggle a bit, but I would rather struggle while knitting than while purling, just a personal preference. But it does give a nice even fabric, so I'll give it that. Loop increases. Another type of increase that uses the working yarn rather than knitting into the previous row. To make the right leaning increase, we create a loop with our thumb and the yarn tail crosses the loop in the front while you pull. Similarly, to make the left leaning increase, we create a loop with our thumb where the yarn tail crosses the loop in the back. Pretty simple, no wrong side fuss like in the yarn over increase, but you do have to remember which way your tail ends up. If I were to rank these from easiest to most difficult, I would put make one right, make one left at the top, and I love make one left, so it pains me because it's the counterpart to make one right, which is so tedious. And I say this because you're always constantly having to think about which direction that left needle is picking up that bar for you to knit into, and then you have to think about, am I knitting into the front or am I knitting into the back? This can be confusing and kind of discouraging if you're a beginner knitter, but having said that, make one left, my personal favorite. Knit front and back is another sturdy increase, and I love it because it doesn't involve thinking too much. You just knit into the front, knit into the back. Normally this comes with no direction, so a pattern will just say knit front and back, and you just knit front and back. Great for beginners. Yarn over, easy enough on the right side, but the wrong side just kills me. I don't like being teased with something that's supposedly easy up front and then just slows me down later on the wrong side. So this is my least favorite, but it does look nice, I'll give it that. Loop method, equally as nice as the yarn over method, but it just doesn't tease you as much. I mean, you have to think about which way your loop is going, so the direction of your loop. And generally when I do the backwards loop method, that's just the method I go for. I really have to think about the counterpart for the left leaning stitch. But I mean, that's the only downside to it. So I guess I would go knit front and back, loop method, yarn over, make one left, make one right. All right, that's it. I hope it helped. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and I will see you in the next video. Decreases. Okay, bye.